Join me for a full day of training as I prep for HYROX. So I'm doing my first ever HYROX in February, either as a single or on a team with my buddy out in Denver. And this was actually a video suggestion that came from y'all regarding take me through a full day of training and share the shoes that you wear for that day. So I'm gonna share my day of training and talk about what I'm gonna be doing, and I'll show you the 3 shoes that I'm bringing today. So for today's workout, we have a warm-up of 2 to 3 sets of 60 seconds cardio, my choice, figure 8 swings with a kettlebell, soleus calf raise, and then 10 to 20 each side lateral banded walks. That is gonna be a spicy warm-up. The goal for this session is to get some running conditioning in, but also do some knee rehab stuff because I have some rickety knees from college cheerleading and ice hockey growing up. After we do that warm-up, we head into an EMOM for 9 minutes. We have a 40-second set of single unders, then a heavy suitcase carry right, heavy suitcase carry left. So that's gonna be 3 rounds through on those guys. Then we have a knee health portion of this. So it's every minute on the minute for 5 minutes, 15 reps heel tap down. So basically heel taps on a plate, and I'm gonna try to elevate the height as I go. And that's gonna be great for building up the tissue integrity around the knee. I need these. That helps me a ton. Honestly, one of my favorite exercises for knee rehab stuff. So if you do get spicy knees, add these in and they are phenomenal. Then we have a GHD setup. For this, we have 3 by 10, and we're stopping right at about hip level. So the goal is to control that eccentric and then work into a bigger range of motion as we go, just to prevent any DOMs of the core, because this is 3 by 10, 30 reps, doing these correctly with the tempo prescribed, it's gonna be saucy. Then we have a running interval. So this is our final part of the workout. 5-minute easy run at about a 4 RPE. Then we have 6 rounds of 800-meter runs, rest 2 minutes in between those. And then we have a 5-minute easy run. So it should be a relatively easy running day. We're easing into some of this running. I have been running a lot on the side regarding easy runs, but then also some faster paced stuff, but blending those two together, that is where we're trying to start a little bit more, let's say baseline, build a nice foundation, and then go up from there, especially since the contest, or competition, not contest, is in February. Now, the shoes I will be wearing for today. So I'm actually gonna be rotating between 2 different barefoot shoes, and the goal is to feel differences between the two. This is an Airhoss barefoot shoe from Amazon. It's like 35, 40 bucks. And then we have the Vivo Barefoot Primus Light 3.5, 160 versus $40 shoe. I wanna rotate them to see how they feel and assess their grip on their outsoles, their flexibility. Being able to put on both in a single session while doing similar stuff, it's a good means, I think, for me to just really feel out each shoe and really note any differences that I feel between the two. Is budget better than premium? Do I notice the budget shoe falling short in certain areas, etc. And then also, just as a personal note, with knee rehab stuff like I'm doing today, I do typically try to go more minimalist just to work on full range of motion, work on my foot and ankle strength as well, because that is very big for knee health, along with obviously my hip health, which I'm also working on as well regarding mobility stuff after and pre-workout. Maybe I could share a video on that down the road. And then for the running intervals, I will be rocking the Nike Pegasus 41. This is the wide model. To be quite honest with you, I don't know if I necessarily love the way this shoe fits in the wide iteration for my foot anatomy. It almost feels a little bit too spacious just because this knit doesn't lock me down enough. So something interesting there. It's like the width is fine regarding the overall feel of it, but when I start training, that's when I almost feel like it gets too wide, and that's, I think, representative of this upper here not locking my foot down. But all that aside, one more note before we go to the gym, I am sipping on the Buff Chick Pump here. This is my favorite pre-workout when I'm training in the afternoon or evening and I don't want to stim. A lot of beta-alanine and citrulline malate in this, great for just pump and cardiovascular work. But all that to say, let's get to the freaking gym. P.S. Look at my face. Like, this morning I had to go to the ER, guys, because my face was so swollen. I had an allergic reaction to something. We still don't know what it is. I'm on steroids right now, and that's also why this workout's perfect, because it's not super heavy. With prednisone and stuff, I try to be a little bit more conscious of my loading just because of the tissue issues that can come along with that regarding ligaments and tendons. I'm not gonna dive into that, but this morning I was looking bad. I'm gonna have my editor put up a picture over here, and then like I looked like the sloth from the Goonies. It was not good. Like, hey, you guys. But all that to say, see you guys at the gym. So I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I have really been loving these sessions that are more HYROX focused. And I think it was just because I was getting a little bit burnt out with my more traditional strength and hypertrophy work, that these just feel like a nice breath of fresh air. And I think, again, as you go through your lifting career, you are always going to ebb and flow through different seasons. Different things will interest you. And so if you're at a point in your lifting career where you might be feeling a little bit just burnt out or bored with your training, and it's not just a week or two, or maybe like an off block, it's an extended period of time. Like I was feeling like that for like 6 months, to be quite honest with you all. I think it could be really important to explore just different means of training, because I finally feel excited to train again, which is a really good feeling. I feel like a little kid when I go to the gym again, which is awesome. But for my warm-ups, I have really been loving these sessions where we're including some form of cardio blended in with some movement prep. That is not always something I've always done. Sometimes I'll do movement prep, sometimes I'll do light cardio, but generally blending them together in kind of like the circuit style has been really awesome for just my knees and how they feel when I start training, but just my body in general and getting some blood flow going. I think when I get lazy, I can tend to skip that, so I have been loving that change up with it. Also, with some of the movement prep, when I rock barefoot shoes for it, it kind of gives me a good read on my body too, to see what's going on or how I'm feeling. Moving into extensive plyos with some suitcase carries. I have been loving doing this after my movement prep, because what we've been trying to do basically is to get my knees healthy again, and to the point where basically they don't ache at all, even when I'm loading heavy, because sometimes on my hybrid days where I'm running and then I'm strength training, my knees feel it the next day. We're trying to get me to a point where that's not a thing. So we're adding in more extensive plyos, like single unders, like box jumps, like any form of reactive catch. So basically doing any form of like jump and really focusing on the landing and sticking that, and then doing the suitcase carries. It's a nice way to also just get a little bit of passive core work and just get some conditioning work to give me a little bit of work in between my extensive plyo sets, because you do want to take a little bit of rest there, generally speaking, if you want to get the most bang for your buck out of them. But with this style of work, I think they can be really useful for folks like myself who tend to struggle with things like aching knees in their sessions. They can be great tools for just kind of prepping that tissue. So it's like you're doing your prep work, your cardio, and then some extensive plyo. So you're kind of opening things up and kind of getting that feel, and then you're starting to get that reactivity and really getting those tendons and ligaments dialed in. And I think that harmonization of these two has been awesome for my training, and I've really enjoyed it. The suitcase carries, they're always a fun challenge, and I always like try to think about how I'm positioning my torso. And when you're doing them, what I would suggest doing is, obviously you want to be relatively neutral with your torso, but don't be afraid to kind of like laterally flex and just feel it out as you're walking. Similar to real life, like you're not always going to be a rigid robot. So I try to do a little bit of movement. I use my offset hand, I put it down, I bring it up, I use it as a counterbalance, I don't use it as a counterbalance. That can be a really cool tool to get a little bit more variety out of a lift that is, generally speaking, pretty static in nature. Now moving into the knee health work, the heel tap downs. They destroy me. And now we'll typically do 3 different variations of this. Number 1, a quad bias, so we'll let that knee track more. Number 2, no bias like today, so basically just coming up and down. And then number 3, a hinge bias or a hip bias, so really sinking into the glute and getting deep into that glute and letting some internal rotation happen at the hip and get a nice little tap there. If you are somebody who is navigating achy knees, what I would suggest doing is starting with a hinge or hip dominant variation with this and a lower height. My coach Tyler Calasi has been really good about giving me nice progressions here, and so that's what I would also suggest doing, because it helps you basically get a little bit of flexion and load that tendon, but don't do too much too quick. And then as you go, you increase the height, you increase the weight. Today I use a contralateral load in my offset hand, so whichever leg I was lifting on, I was holding the weight in the offset hand. That can be a nice progression too, because it typically is a little bit easier, because it's easier to balance that way. Then as you get stronger and as you're feeling more confident, then you can go with that ipsilateral, aka the same hand on the same lifting leg. Moving into the GHD sit-ups. These were so fun. Honestly, it is insane what you can get out of your core work when you slow it down and you focus more on positions than just getting in the volume and the reps. With this, I can already feel that I'm gonna feel a little bit sore regarding the lengthening position of my core. Honestly, I'm kind of dreading it, because that's when, like, whenever you laugh and stuff and your core hurts, like, it's just like, why do we do this to ourselves? But it was really fun, I think, working into that, trying to get that nice hip height versus going all the way down. If you find that you're constantly getting sore from GHD sit-ups, this could be a good variation to explore. And add a little bit of a tempo, add a pause there. You can increase your adaptation and intensity by doing so. Ending off with the running work. I'm gonna go ahead and read you guys my times, because I think that's important. So basically start the easy run in 5 minutes. I was trying to gun for like a 9-minute pace. That's a 4 out of 10. Honestly, I feel like a 4 out of 10 can be a little bit hard at times to gauge. So all that to say, with this workout, I kept in my mind, I'm like, okay, you might not nail the 4 out of 10 easy and cool down, and you might not nail the 7 out of 10 run for all of your intervals. And that's okay, because that will get better as I dial in my running more and I understand where my threshold's actually existing right now. For the intervals, we had 6 800-meter bouts with 2-minute rests in between. The Nike Pegasus 41s, I thought did a really good job for this. Honestly, I made that note on the width, but I honestly feel like I'm maybe getting used to it in this model, because it felt a lot better today than it has in my last 4 runs in them. So maybe it's one of those things that I just have to adapt to and get used to. Granted, I do wish the upper security worked a bit better for that wide toe box and the looseness of the upper, but I might go with the regular Model 2 just to see if that sizing nips itself in the butt, and then that way I can give more context in my review. But for my times there, I was supposed to go at a 7 out of 10 pace. We did 800 meter bouts, so 345, 340, 338, 326, 326, and then the final one, I did want to send a little bit, so I hit 600 meters and I sent it for my last 200 meters, and we hit 3 minutes flat, so right around a 6-minute mile, aka a 6 minute, 1600 meter bout of running. So all in all, felt good as I settled in. My knees feel really good, and then the cool down run, it was a very slow pace, just like casual 9 to 10 minute run. Just what I did was I was focusing a little bit more on increasing my stride rate, because when I run slow, I can have the problem, and I know some of you are probably similar, when I'm trying to increase the frequency of my steps and my stride rate, it ends up just speeding me up. So I'm really trying to get conscious of increasing that without necessarily going super fast and then going way too fast than I wanted to. Run slow to go fast. That's the saying that all the runners like, right? All that to say though, this workout was awesome. If you enjoyed this video, where I bring you through a workout and discuss the shoes that I chose at the beginning of the workout and then walk you through the workout, let me know in the comments below. This was actually a suggestion from a viewer. Again, I implemented barefoot shoes and running shoes into this workout because it was more of like a knee health and prep workout with some conditioning and running focus. So blending those two, I thought did a great job harmoniously regarding the goals that I wanted out of this and with the feeling that I wanted out of this workout. But wrapping all this up, and enough with my rambling. If you have additional questions on this video, the shoes featured, or the movements, drop a comment down below or hit me personally, whichever you prefer. And as always, y'all, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one.